Good morning, everybody. Once again, Dr. Jimmy Henderson, cognitive scientist and metaphysician. And today I want to talk a bit more about the mind and how the mind plays a role in our perception of reality and also in what we perceive during meditation and our dreams as well. The mind has certain abilities which most of us don't even know about, and that explains how these phenomena can take place during meditation and how we are actually able to see with the inner eye and see human-like figures and make sense of a lot of the impressions that we are receiving out there. The first power of the mind is synesthesia. You can look that up in any psychological textbook. It basically means that the mind has the ability to translate one sensory mode into another sensory mode. You've often heard of blind people who say that they can see the music in terms of colors, or that they can feel the texture in terms of colors of something. And we can also do that. In other words, we can translate one sense into another. In other words, the sensation of feeling and impressions we can actually translate into images, and this is what we do during meditation or even during our dreams. And the way this works is that our bodies, as we know, our bodies have an electrochemical basis to them, and we, if you believe in that, which metaphysicians do, we actually are surrounded by energy and are formed of this energy at a subatomic level. In other words, we respond to energy. You know that some astronauts, when they go out into space, actually have to wear protective suits because the energy can be so dangerous that it can damage the body. So what happens if we accept the fact that our bodies do respond to energy, and being of an electrical nature, there's no reason why they shouldn't respond to energy which is electrical in nature. We are able to translate impressions, feelings, and sensations from outside, in other words, feelings from outside, into images through the faculty of synesthesia. So the way that this is done, as I say, is that during meditation or even during our normal day-to-day existence, when we are sort of in contemplative states, I would say usually when we are in an altered state, which is one of contemplation, a very relaxed state of mind, not busy, we're not with a busy mind at all. We are able to pick up these impressions at a subconscious level. In other words, our subconscious mind, being far more open to reality than our conscious minds, is able to pick up these impressions and we translate them into feelings. And if we are in the right state of mind, and if we are trying to do this, especially during meditation, we then translate these impressions, sensations, feelings through the bodily process and the etheric processes. We then translate into images in our mind. An example of this is when we actually meditate on the subconscious mind and look at our archetypes. Archetypes are those repressed energies, according to Carl Jung, repressed energies that we have in ourselves from the past that we haven't resolved, unresolved issues that tend to take on a energy form. They actually have a motivating energy ability deep within our subconscious mind. In other words, they actually exist there. And if we tap into them, like the inner child, the victim, the hero archetype, which could make us give us the courage and the inspiration to do something really fantastic. The inner child, which gives us joy when we partake of something which children would enjoy, like a roller coaster ride. And then unfortunately the victim archetype as well, which when we start feeling negative and depressed, we then tap into this, and it makes us feel a bit miserable. So during meditation, we will actually find that we will be confronted by some of these feelings to start with, feeling impressions, and then later on, if we master what we call spontaneous visualization, where the mind is actually able to create these images. In other words, we've logged into that process of synesthesia and conversion and practiced it. We will then actually be able to translate these images from the psyche, not the images, the impressions and the feelings and the energies, into images, which we will then see as human-like figures. Due to the fact of the mind, we are familiar with human-like figures. It's a schema that we have where we can able to recognize it. And the way we put it together actually is through pareidolia. Now that is another power of the mind. Pareidolia is the ability of the mind to put together a picture, familiar picture, from cues, from random cues. In other words, we will pick up these feelings, these energies during meditation, and we will be able to, through pareidolia, we will able to assemble it into something which is familiar. Which is most familiar to us would be a person. In other words, the characteristics of let's take the archetype for instance. The characteristics of the archetype, whether it's positive energy, happiness, joy, or on the other end, the depressed, negative feelings that have been repressed all these years, will then present themselves in human-like figures, as we have a schema for humans. And then the way it will be put together is through pareidolia. In other words, we'll have the cues, the energy, the promptings, the cues, the impressions will all then come together, and we will then form the impression of a human person, a human-like being. And for those of you that have done meditation, you'll know that that takes place when it comes to guides. And even if for those of you that believe in angels or have experienced angels, angelic beings, I call them celestials, it works in the same way. In other words, we're picking up the energy and we then translating it through pareidolia into a human-like figure through the process of synesthesia, which then allows us to convert those feelings, impressions of the energy, into images. Then through pareidolia, we then assemble the images into a human-like person with certain characteristics which reflect the type of energy with which we are being presented. In other words, a positive energy will give us an impression or image of light and nice, beautiful colors, where negative energy will probably come through as dark, depressing, and a person with dark clothes. So a lot of what we see is determined by our past. Well, in psychology it's called frame of reference, because your frame of reference provides the schemas, the reference points for what you will see and experience. If you've experienced it before, you will then use the same energies and the same processes to recreate that in your mind. So a lot of what we perceive during meditation and during spiritual contacts is actually put together in the minds. There is something there, yes, there is the energy there, the impressions are there, the guidance is there, but what you actually see is put together in your own mind from your own memories and schemas. So I hope that has made it a little bit clearer for you when it comes to meditation. Yes, you are picking up something. You're picking up impressions and sensations which are being projected to you from another personality, and you then this assembly is actually taking place in your mind. If you are very good and you work with telepathy, and you might actually see the actual picture of the person who is sending information to you, because their characteristics are coming through, their personality characteristics are coming through, and having possibly had contact with them previously, you'll then see that. Actually see the person when you receive the impression or the message. That is also true. What I'd like to do is invite you to visit my website and have a look at some of my articles and my books that are available there. You're most welcome. You can connect on my website address, www.discoveringyourself.co.za. www.discoveringyourself.co.za. I therefore invite you to have a look at that, and there are other articles there and videos which you might find interesting. Thank you.